back.
Yeah.
You know, we talked earlier about Old College Hall.
Yes, Old College Hall.
I don't know any history about that, but you know, luckily we have some people here that know all about it. Do you?
What a great intro. I'm telling you, what a great intro. Some people don't even know where Old College Hall is.
Where it used to be?
No, where it still is. So what,
okay.
You want to introduce our guest, Daniel, or you just want to visit with me? Because I don't know anything about Old College Hall.
Why don't you introduce it?
I would be happy
I'll
to.
Listen.
Okay, I would be happy to.
Burn off some of that frustration.
I will. And you, I'm meeting for the first time, you are Joe Byrd Huddleston.
That's right.
And you are a descendant of Jacob Wolf, I hear.
That's right.
So your family has been here for 150
many decades.
Years. Well, how wonderful. So you're like the heart behind this. And then we have Ben Ponder, who is actually the nuts and bolts of it. It's what your dad tells me. Followed by his father, Danny Ponder. And Danny's just the champion back here, happy to be here. He's married to Nell. He's happy to be here. He talks a lot. And then, of course, Mayor Osmond, who used to live there. So we're going to have to put a plaque in that room, of course. But you have the dream first, Joe, so why don't you tell us what your dream is?
Well, actually, it was a staff member at City Hall. I just happened to be visiting with her one day. And I said, you know, I've been thinking about City Hall, and I just wish we could find a wonderful place for them to go and be in. And she said, well, I have a dream. And I said, well, what is it? And she said, Old College Hall. And that was like, woo, a light bulb went off. And so then I found out more information about it, and that's how it got started. Met up with Danny, and he took me through the whole building, and I was just enthralled. It was so beautiful.
What's the history of Old College Hall?
Well, actually, it was 20 years after Baxter County was declared a county, that was in 1873, and the Baptist Association wanted to have a college in Mountain Home. They already had one in Ouachita. And at Ouachita College, whatever that town is, Arkadelphia.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it started in 1893, and the land was donated by people right here, and the material for the buildings. So it's very much a Mountain Home, Baxter County situation.
And then there was buildings built?
Buildings built. In fact, eventually there were 12 buildings, counting Old College Hall, and there's only one left.
But a lot of those buildings that were torn down, there's still remnants of it in the new college halls, is that correct? Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, we have some.
Yeah.
In Dreyer Hall, we have some of the blocks and stuff. But why was it that Old College Hall was saved and the rest of them were razed, as they say?
Well, it was made of wonderful old Ozark stone, and so apparently the other buildings weren't, because they didn't last as well.
And what else has it been? Obviously, it's been an apartment. Mayor, when did you live there, if you don't mind me asking? It was an apartment?
I don't recall. 20-something years ago.
20-something years ago, it was in a
short period of time.
It was a set of apartments.
Well, there were apartments there, and there were. That was when Blackburn Real Estate.
Mary, could you hold your mic up? Just I don't know if we can hear you.
Thank you. That was when Blackburn Real Estate occupied the principal entryway of the building. So there were, and Charlie and Kathy had a multiple room apartment there upstairs. So there was a number of separate living units there, and it was used for his real estate company office.
Okay.
Blackburn Real Estate.
At some point after that 20 years, it became in disrepair. Is that correct, or was it?
It did.
Okay.
There was not enough funding, unfortunately, and so it was kind of off on. I'm talking about earlier history, and so eventually that's when I suppose it was purchased then by the Blackburns to save it.
You went in the office there and you started stirring up trouble, and you took this dream, and what'd you do with it from there?
Well, it became my dream too, because I remember my grandparents talking about the school. I remember my great-grandfather mentioning the school, and I'm sure that it was just such a boon to the area, because actually a lot of subjects were taught: history, French, Greek, vocational classes such as shorthand and typing. but the main focus was on teacher training, and of course all the little schools around certainly needed teachers. And so this was something that all of us who have grown up here, our ancestors, would have been very proud of. And but then after its heyday during the 20s, then the Depression hit, and it hit really hard here. And that's when the school closed in 1933.
Okay.
But the building has been restored because that's where the Ponders come in. When did you guys start that? 2 years ago now? All right. Because how long?
3 years ago, maybe.
3 years ago, maybe. Now, did you gut it? I mean, what all have you guys done to it?
I'll let him take you through those stages
Should we show the video
Show
now,
the
or do you
video
want
now?
a little
Sure, that
little
would make
introduction of
that would make sense.
Okay, we can start
let's
the video.
rack
You've
that
got
video
some
up
video.
and just kind of narrate through here.
Yeah, some narration here. As you see, like Joe said, this is the last remaining building from what used to be the Mountain Home Baptist College. A lot of the other buildings were smaller. This was in the beginning, just the front section of the building was built in 1894, and it was the Music and Elocution Hall. It actually had 3 stories. There was a mansard roof on top that would be taken off in the 50s because it fell into disrepair. But then in about 1920, the back wings that you can kind of see there behind the fountain were added, and around that time it began to be used as the girls' dormitory for the college, which was very strategically placed at the farthest point away from the boys' dormitory on the campus. And so,
Good Baptist.
That's what I was thinking. I was a Methodist.
Exactly.
I wasn't going to say that.
So, and it was also used as the president's residence for the college. And like Joe said, the college closed down after kind of an up and down history in the 30s. What we're looking at here is the, I guess, sort of a tour through the lobby. That's an original wood stove that we salvaged and had redone out of the cellar. And you'll notice some of the decorations in there. They're historic photographs, and then also a lot of old newspaper, not just clippings, but whole sheets of newspapers from the Arkansas Gazette, Chicago, and Springfield papers, and many of them were preserved really well, stuffed in the walls as insulation. And so what we've tried to do whenever we were restoring it is to be as faithful as we could be to the the historical designs and placements of it. And again, here you're seeing some of the older photographs of different eras. This is actually whenever this era right here in the 30s and 40s. It was the Morton Hotel, and where a lot of the workers who built the dams stayed, because there wasn't good housing out near where the dams were being constructed. So the building has a rich history. You see right next to it is the old main building, and I think Joe may want to talk about that a little bit. That's a building, it was a glorious building that fell into disrepair in the 50s and became not just an eyesore, but there again is a better picture of it. It became dangerous and was torn down. That's actually the old boys' dormitory. And that's a painting from that's signed on the back by the wife of one of the college presidents from the early 1900s. So anyway, throughout the building, we really attempted to again, some of these old newspapers, which are fascinating to read. You can see things from World War II. There's one of the columns in there is Eleanor Roosevelt's My Day column that's up on one of these things, and there's a Camel cigarette sponsored comic book page, and yeah, so it was a lot of real interesting stuff. But yeah, so anyway, we just really tried to be as realistically faithful to the history of the building as we could.
Where are the furnishings coming from?
The furnishings, yeah, the furnishings were again just cobbled together. I like those kinds of things, and so try to pay attention to having some different craftsmen and other historical furnishings that fit the pieces. There's a grand piano there that we salvaged. It was in pretty bad shape, but it was a 1920 grand piano that Joe Enich tuned and is now at concert pitch. Again, you see some of those are color comics that were salvaged because they weren't exposed to sunlight at all. They were stuffed in walls as insulation. And so, you know, a lot of it, this is a very, historically this was a really poor area, and so this is a showpiece back in the day. That's one reason why there aren't that many buildings that have survived in downtown Mountain Home, because you just built it well enough to get by for a while,
Right.
because you didn't have a lot of extra resources. And so this is a those are some nails that were salvaged out of again, I could tell you stories about every one of these
Is
things.
the original floor plan still intact?
There wasn't really an original floor plan.
plans.
The original floor plan was only the front part of the building. You know, and you can't tell it unless you really look closely, but the back wings were added about 25 years later. Like the mayor mentioned, it was the Blackburns owned it for several years. It's been a hospital, it's been a funeral home, it's been the Cumberland Presbyterian Church was actually founded there while it met in the chapel. That's actually the original courthouse in Mountain Home, which the historic significance is they added a third story to it because there was a loophole in the state laws that said you couldn't move the county seat if the courthouse was 3 stories tall. So that prevented Cotter from becoming the county seat. These are again photos from downtown Mountain Home at different eras throughout history. So anyway, there's a lot of rich history there, a lot of great craftsmanship, a lot of can-do attitude that you could tell even when you're tearing through it. You know, a lot of times I would compare it to, it was more like archaeology than building, because you would take a layer of floor off and you'd find there are 7 layers below that where they had just over time added and added and added, and you could see where there were parts, again, very nice building, as nice as we had in the area, where it was evident that folks had just donated materials and scraps from their own barns or whatever else. Here you see this is kind of at its earliest stage before they add the wings to it.
Now, are any of the windows still original, or do they all
Yes.
have to, they
Yes.
are?
Yeah. The window. Many of the windows are original. We restored some of the. We had some kind of architectural replicas made for some of them, and then others are. We just tried to be as period consistent as we could throughout. So anyway, I've talked enough. I'll let the rest of these
How many
folks talk.
square feet is the building? Do you know?
It's about 7,500.
About 7,500 square feet. And what Joe's dream, and the dream everyone's kind of adopting here, is for that to be the city hall of Mountain Home, and possibly maybe be available for the Historical Society. And that would be a one-stop, beautiful city hall.
Oh, it could be used for many things. It's so